Okay, so a morning edition of Car Talk Thursday, because I'm awake, I'm ready to go. I wrote down my notes of the shit I want to talk about. Some of them I might be rambling on for a while, but here we go. So, the first thing I want to go ahead and say is real quick, caught up on Chainsaw Man, which just means I read the newest chapter. I've been caught up for a while. And same with Oshinoko. I'm caught up on the anime, I haven't read the manga. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really getting... Oh, I think I'm also caught up on Pokemon Horizon, but the new episode doesn't come out till tomorrow. Really enjoying all three. Probably when Oshi is done, I'm just going to pick up the manga, because, like, yeah, I'm invested in this shit. I want to see where it goes. I don't know if the manga is finished. If so, then, yeah, I'll just binge it and finish it. If not, then I'll just try to get caught up. But liking all three of those shows, or I guess those two shows and that one manga with Chainsaw Man, liking them all quite a bit. Excuse me. I was caught up on My Hero like a few weeks ago, but I assume a few chapters have passed since. I was caught up on Talentless Nana. I don't know if there's been another chapter or maybe even two since. I don't remember when I got caught up. But at least with those two, I kind of like to have them build up for a bit and then I get caught back up. Next thing is, so Mission Impossible 7 is coming out in July, and a buddy of mine, he was just kind of asking, he's like, hey, so these are some of the movies I want to go watch. Are you interested in this one? Are you interested in this one? So, like, Fast 10. Not super excited for it. The only ones I've seen are 1, 2, and 9. So, I probably would have liked 9 a lot more if I had seen 3 through 8. But from what I understand, it's not really required viewing. I was just like, it's fine. It's just not super clicking with me. But when it comes to the Mission Impossible movies, because I've seen 1 and 3. I haven't seen any of the others, but I've heard that 4 through 6 are all phenomenal. So I'm actually really interested in watching them. So I actually borrowed the complete collection of movies. So I want to get those done today. And that's one of the reasons I'm recording this in the morning is, yeah, after I'm done, I want to at least go ahead and watch 4. Possibly later in the day, watch 5. I've seen 1, I've seen 3. I might rewatch them later, and I've heard that 2 is just bad. I'll probably watch it eventually, but it's like, yeah, it's almost kind of like Devil May Cry 2, because I keep hearing that, yeah, if you want to play all the Devil May Cry games, there's only 4 you need to play, 1, 3, 4, and 5. Just don't play 2. You'll enjoy the series way more. I don't think Mission Impossible 2 is quite that bad, but it's cool, so I just really don't care to watch it. If I have time and I want to, fine. If not, then I'll just watch the ones I want to watch. So another thing happening later technically next week, because we leave on Sunday, is my sister is graduating from med school on Saturday. And on Sunday, we're going to be taking a family trip to Orlando. So we will be leaving Sunday morning, and we will get back Wednesday morning. And I'm definitely excited. Part of it is like, yeah, I'm excited to go on a trip with my family. I'm also really excited for my sister. And since I get back on Wednesday, I imagine next week's Car Talk Thursday will probably just be, so here's what happened on the trip, and not much else to talk about. But, we'll get to that video. I just kind of noticed I was in shadow quite a bit there. It was like, we'll get to that video when we get to that video, but I'm really excited and happy for her. But speaking of family trips, here's the part where I'm really gonna ramble for a bit, because I fucking love Umineko. So Clay and it's mostly Clay has been reading the novels, like the visual novels, and I've been kind of following along behind him, like hanging out with him in his room reading it, because I'd already read the first 2 about 8 years ago. And on the one hand, there's that sense of like, yeah, it was 8 years ago, how much do you remember? Quite a bit, actually. Like, this shit is, like, there's been some moments, especially the tea party at the end of Turn of the Golden Witch, that shit has lived in my head rent-free for 8 fucking years. Unfortunately, I know some really big spoilers, and it's not to say, and I think I said this in a previous video as well, it's not that these spoilers actually affect my interest or investment in it. It's almost kind of I don't want to say it's the opposite, because there's this part of me that's like, I wish I didn't know, so I could make theories without knowing the outcome. But there's also this sense where I'm like, now that I know some of the things that are actually going on behind the scenes, it makes figuring out, like, the how shit is going on a lot more fun, because it's like, all right, I actually have some of the pieces, but I don't have all of them, but I'm trying to construct the puzzle as best as possible. So we have finished Banquet of the Golden Witch. We finished Banquet last night, and Tears of the Kingdom is coming out tomorrow, so Clay, I think, is kind of like, he's not going to be reading Umineko as fervently, because he's also going to be playing Zelda, and I'm going to be out of state, so I'm not going to be reading Umineko either. And I will go and say, I'm not super interested in Tears of the Kingdom. I'm not a huge, like, I like Zelda. There's a lot of the games I like quite a bit, but I don't quite love Zelda. I'm not like, man, there's a new Zelda game, I gotta get it. Like, I still haven't played Breath of the Wild. And also, I don't really care for open world games, so I haven't played Breath of the Wild. And it's like, this is just Breath of the Wild on crack. Cool, but I still haven't played it because it just doesn't look that appealing to me. It's why I didn't get into Elden Ring. I don't like Souls games, and I don't like open world games. Like, it's an open world Souls! Yay! It's an open world Zelda! Okay, that's a bit more enticing to me, but just not super. But I know the internet is going to go crazy. Most everyone is just going to have a good time playing it. And I sincerely hope, if you're someone who is looking forward to it, that it meets and surpasses all your expectations. But back to Umineko. Now that we have finished Banquet, which is book 3 of 8, there are 2 people that are my suspicions for being Beatrice. And I will say, that is one of the things that I know. I do actively know who Beatrice is. So I acknowledge it sounds kind of fucking weird to be like, well, as the person who knows where this is going, here are my culprits for who it's going to be. But I am trying to be like, all right, what are the things that me just not knowing, like, on a macro level I know what's going on, but I don't know what's going on a micro level at times? What are things that have just made me go, what the fuck, that's weird, that is super suspicious? Who genuinely seems suspicious? Whether these people are Beatrice or not in the long run. But the 2 people for me are Rosa and Shannon. I wasn't super suspicious of anyone in the first, and I guess, like, I'm going to be fully spoiling, like, talking about shit in 1 through 3 for Umineko. Here's the warning for that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's jam. I wasn't super suspicious of anyone in the first novel, just because I'm like, all right, I'm not super sure what's happening. It's like, I kind of remember the big spoilers, but I'm not a hundo, so we'll just see how it goes. In the second novel, it's like, Rosa, you're suspicious as hell. She's fine as hell, too. I don't know what it is, but there's some sprites of Rosa where her face is just, like, at an angle, and she looks, like, really frustrated or disappointed, and I don't know what it is, but I'm like, it just activates all of my neurons. But I'm like, okay, this is 2 routes in a row of Legend of the Golden Witch and Turn of the Golden Witch where Maria has survived. And Rosa's not a great mother, to put it lightly, to put it very lightly. But she does still love her daughter, and if she is the one orchestrating all the murders, it makes sense that she wouldn't fucking kill her kid. And at the end of Turn, Rosa and Maria are the only 2 left alive. I mean, there's the, like, actual goat demons around on the island, which I don't know what the fuck that shit is. I really don't. But it's possible it's like, okay, like, she is Beatrice, she did all this shit. And that is why she and Maria were the last 2 people left. In the first novel, Rosa is one of the first people dead, but everyone in the first novel of the first 6, had their faces fucked with. Some of them are completely unrecognizable, which means that, yeah, you could prepare a fake body, destroy the face, and then now you're free to roam about the island. Some of them are kind of recognizable, or it's like, because everyone was wearing their clothes. It was like, okay, the ones with the completely fucked up faces, we only know them by their clothes. So you put your clothes on a fake body you prepared, you can do whatever the hell you want. The ones who it's like, all right, we can kind of see these parts of the body so we can still tell who they are, plus they have their clothes. Maybe they found bodies that were close enough to how they looked, but it's still a little suspicious. But Rose, I believe, is one of the ones whose face was completely fucked. They're like, oh, so we only heavily think you died. We don't know for sure that you died. And then in the next route, you are alive. You're also the one holding the gun. So you kind of have the power. You were the one who was being really, actively causing suspicion on people. At one point, you held all of the master keys and the fucking weapon. Huh. And then you get to book 3, where Ava solves the riddle and becomes the new family head as a result, and becomes the new Beatrice. Only a few minutes later, Rosa shows up in the exact same place solving the riddle. So, if Rosa is not Beatrice, it just means, damn, she was, 5 minutes too slow. If she is Beatrice, it really does kind of come across as, someone, finally someone solved it. Let me go congratulate them. Now, that's not really how their conversation plays out. But it is okay, now she's kind of going to confirm that someone's there and who it is that solved it. And the fact that the whole Ava Beatrice, Beatrice giving Ava Beatrice the new name and all the power and shit, from a non-magic perspective, it essentially sounds like an alliance between two killers, because Ava ends up being the main culprit of Banquet. You could easily see that then as okay, this is Rosa and Ava coming into their agreement of what they're all going to do with the gold, especially because afterwards they're yeah, so this is the shit I'm going to do with my share. Sis, remember what you told me about my share? And how it's oh, what do you know? Beatrice is no longer the main bitch in charge. It's Avatrice, which is, that's how I refer to Ava Beatrice. It rolls off the tongue a little better for me. Avatrice is now the head bitch in charge. And who is the first person she kills? Rosa. It's Rosa and Marie. It's cool, you don't have contractual immunity anymore, so now there is no bullshit that you are dead. And this is the route where your daughter dies. Huh. You're looking really sus right now, Aunt Rosa. Now, we're not confirmed, but you're suspect number 1. But I said suspect number 2 was Shannon. Had no reason to suspect her in Route 1, because she was one of the 6 that died, and there was still enough of her face that they're oh, this is clearly Shannon. So okay, so you are definitely dead. In Route 2, I'm saying routes, because they are just full-on, anyways, sorry, I was gonna be they're not really routes, it's full-on different stories, and I'm well, I mean, it feels like it's book 2. I guess that's the thing, in Fate, where every route feels this is a different version of events that could have happened. Umaneko was kind of like that, but also feels no, each one is adding more shit, so it is, theoretically in Fate, you could read them out of order. You really shouldn't, but you could. Umaneko, you really can't. I mean, I guess, technically you can, because you can always read shit out of order, but it's, no, this is clearly book 3, not alternate history number 3. But regardless. And Shannon, in Legend, didn't really suspect her. In Turn, didn't really suspect her. But there's some shit in Banquet that made me go, wait, what? So number 1, Beatrice has a witch duel with Virgilia. And during the duel, Beatrice gets impaled by a spear. And it specifically says it got her, through the shoulder and then went out her left buttocks. I remember that part in particular because it just kind of made me giggle. But it's okay, so you got hit from the shoulder and it went, down through your body. When they discover Shannon's corpse, because she's, again, one of the first 6 killed, and this witch's duel was, when the first 6 were dying, Shannon has the same wound. And they talk about how, okay, it's everyone that was part of the first 6, which was Kinzo and the servants, it seemed like they were killed by a gun or they were killed by a spear, which, those are 2 very different kind of weapons. I guess you mean a harpoon gun or some shit, maybe. But, okay. But Shannon is the one that has the exact wound Beatrice does. That's highly suspicious, especially because Battler's reasoning is that, okay, if everyone was in a closed room and they had essentially the keys to go to another room, it's probably what happened is 5 people were murdered and the 6th person died on accident. And that's, when I look at that, I'm like, the most likely person there to have died on accident is Shannon, because she has the same wound that Beatrice does. It is very possible. It's like, okay, so, excuse me, Beatrice's duel with Virgilia is the magic theory version of Shannon killing Kumasawa, and something in that death went wrong. And so Shannon died. But then, how does that work? Like, how did Shannon get into the other room? Well, I'll put a pin in that, because there's something at the end of the novel that made me go, wait a second. Oh, this is now super fascinating. So I'll put a pin in that. So Shannon is now dead. Quote unquote dead. Nanjo does examine the body and says that no, she is thoroughly dead. But he even says, I'm a bit up there in age. I can't always confirm shit with 100% accuracy, but I'm pretty fucking sure she's dead. So either he is in on it, which is not an impossibility, or if Shannon is Beatrice, he's either in on it or he just got it wrong. Neither of which I can count out. But there's a later part in the novel where George is thinking about how Shannon is dead and how he's heartbroken because that's his woman. And there's a part in bold, not written in red, so it's not witch truth talk, but written in bold where he's thinking to himself, her body will probably be cremated, and if she's cremated, she cannot be revived. I thought two things immediately. One is, okay, whenever someone is revived, I guess there's like two ways we can look at that. Number one is going to the Golden Land, because that happened to Shannon at the end of the first book. It is very possible that what we mean by this is, if you burn a body, you can't go to the Golden Land if you've been burned. I don't know why, but maybe that's what they're saying. Which makes the fact that Kinzo was burned in the first book and the third book kind of funny. Almost like, no. You don't get to go to heaven, you fucking piece of shit. Sorry, my nose is like really itchy for some reason. I'm feeling these spring allergies. But anyways, that's thing number one. It's like, it's kind of innocuous, just means she can't go to the Golden Land if she's burned. George would make sure her body is like fine and intact. But the other thing that came to mind was, she cannot be revived. This whole ritual is about reviving Beatrice. Because you know what, narration giving me this big fucking hint in bold? You're right. If we burn Shannon's body and she is Beatrice, she can't exactly be able to come back later and say, hey guys, look, I'm Beatrice, I'm fine, because she went from faking her death to actually being dead because you fucking burned her. I was like, wait a second. That's suspicious. And she has the same wound. That's really fucking sus. So, like, right after this, as George is talking about how much he misses Shannon and loves her, Beatrice is overhearing this conversation and goes up to him and is like, I feel bad, because I'm having a lot of character in this arc that ends up all being for show, which is fucking hilarious. And it's like, I feel bad about this, so I'm going to take you to go see Shannon, and maybe with enough magic we can revive her. So she takes George into the other mansion to where Shannon's body is, and through the power of magic, because she even says, like, George, close your eyes. And then when he opens his eyes, Shannon is back alive. So very possible what happened is Shannon, as her Beatrice, in her Beatrice mode, heard George be like, I fucking miss my woman. It broke her heart to hear her man say that, so she's like, I'm gonna do him a solid. So she takes George, essentially switches clothes, I guess, from Beatrice into Shannon, gets up, and is like, look, the magic revived me, we're back together, and then they both died. Which, to me, means one of three things happened. One, Ava saw them together and was like, George and that fucking maid, I am sick of this shit, and she killed them both. Possibly she was just trying to kill Shannon, and then she fucked up and she killed them. Because the two the like British bunny girl demons, the like Chester 1, Chester 2, I think they're just guns. I think this is like a personification of the weapons. So what I think happened there is Ava killed them both. Possibly just trying to kill Shannon, or possibly she was so pissed off, her anger got the best of her and she killed George too. Number 2, Shannon killed George in a murder-suicide, and I don't know why she would do that. I don't know what motivation Shannon has to say, oh, I want to be out of this too. But it might have just been like, you know what? I've killed a lot of people as Beatrice. I don't really want to do this shit anymore. Let's go together. Or Shannon just killed George, and Shannon's death is essentially the death of the Shannon persona, and she just goes back to being Beatrice full time. So I'm going to take that pin out, because during Battler's duel with Avatrice, which is fucking fun and really hyped, and the scene where like she's doing the red, and then it's all these like red spider webs are like cornering Battler. Like, this is so fucking cool. I love Umineko. I get what people mean now when they say the story doesn't really start till Banquet. Everything else is set up. And it's like, man, the setup is excellent. And now it's just going on. It's on crack. Holy fuck, dude. Anyways, there's a part where she's essentially saying no one could have killed Nanjo, but Nanjo was killed by homicide. Because the only 3 people alive at that time were you, Battler, and you did not do it, and you were not an accomplice. Ava, who we know is the culprit, but she didn't do it. And Jessica, who didn't do it, and her body was so fucked up because, like, her eyes were burned by the barrel of the gun. Holy fuck, that's fucked up. But her body was incapable of doing this. Excuse me. And then Battler comes up with a theory. He's like, wait a second. You are Aunt Ava's persona. I guess to use persona terms, almost like her shadow. Could someone else have had a shadow? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe Jessica had a witch sonar or a shadow, and that's what did it. And then Avatrice's response in red is, no, Jessica doesn't. Jessica couldn't have done it. Her body was incapable. But I noticed something really important. At least I feel like it was important. I was like, wait a second. You specifically, Avatrice, after being confronted with the shadow theory, said Jessica couldn't have. You didn't exclude anyone else. So very possible, because they've been saying, like, yeah, everyone is dead. Rosa is dead. Shannon is dead. Kinzo's dead, etc., etc. In red. But does that mean their body is dead? Because I don't know if we've really had that confirmed, or it could be the death of that persona. I don't know how Rosa could have faked her death in this one, but Shannon maybe could have. I don't know. But if we go with that theory, it's like, okay, the Shannon persona is dead, and now the Beatrice persona is doing shit. Like, Rosa's been really sus, but Shannon's getting up there, like, kind of out of nowhere. Like, We'll see what happens in Alliance. So, wait, that's book 4. So, possibly in Alliance, I'm going to be like, dude, it's Shannon, no bullshit. I might go like, no, it is Rosa, no bullshit. Out of nowhere, I might be like, yo, it really is just Kinzo and Drag, which I keep saying to Clay. I'm like, yeah, dude. Here's one of the big theories. It's just Kinzo. The guy is that fucking insane. He's just in drag as Beatrice because he's this lonely old man who hates his family, because his family hate him for kind of good reasons. He's an awful person. But in his loneliness and bitterness, he just made this alternate persona that he's in love with, and he has to kill all of his family because they won't accept it. Like, what the fuck? That's insane, but it might actually happen, like some Norman Bates psycho shit. But anyways, I love Umineko. Clearly, this shit is so interesting to me. I'm having so much fun reading it. But speaking of the ends, I do have to bring up, I did finish reading Fate's Day Night. I do want to record a Heaven's Feel video later today. Depending on timing, I might not actually get to it. We will see. But what I really want to do is like watch a Mission Impossible movie, record the Heaven's Feel video, and then while it's uploading, just watch another Mission Impossible movie. Hopefully I can get to it. Overall, I fucking loved reading Fate Stay Night. Like, what was I gonna say? I know Tsukihime has an anime adaptation, and everyone who's seen it says there is no Tsukihime anime adaptation, and Umineko is the exact same. Fate isn't like that, where I know the anime adaptations have their problems, and people will frequently tell you, it's like, yeah, I think, like, the sentiment I get from the Fate adaptations is, if you want to see some of your favorite scenes animated, watch them. And if this is your introduction to Fate, do watch them. But keep in mind, the source material is way better. And if you read it, or excuse me, if you watch this and went, this is really cool, but read the VN because your butts might be alleviated. And having read the VN, I'm like, yeah, I like this story so much fucking more now. All it took was reading the source material, and it went from, this is a good idea, but I don't know about the execution, to being, this shit is fucking good. But, yeah, hopefully I can do a Heaven Seal video pretty soon. And then I do want to do kind of like a Fate Stay Night video. It's like, here's what I think of the VN as a whole. Now I've kind of slept on each route. This is my definitive ranking of the routes. These are my favorite characters, all the best fights, all the bad, all that kind of shit. Let's see, what else I want to say? Okay, so a couple other things. There's a King K. Rool-based animation. It was from Alex Henderson Animated. I want to give them a shout out because this came out like Tuesday or Wednesday. Yeah, okay, so today's Thursday. I believe it was Monday night or Tuesday. And I fucking love it. I've watched it a few times. It's essentially like about a 10-minute animated segment of like King K. Rool doing a villain song. And it's just wonderful. Please go give it a watch. I love it. There's also a channel which is called Jack Black Throws Peaches. And it's just memes of Jack Black throwing a peach from his Mario song, but like the live action Jack Black from the music video, which I haven't seen the music video. It's fucking great. I love it. My favorite is, I think it's just called like Jack Black, but it's the end of the line or some shit, where he sings the line, it's the end of the line, and he just pulls out a gun and shoots the camera. I've been laughing at it for like 2 days now. It's so good. I want to give that a shout out. So a few nights ago, I had a dream where I was taking a walk by the local lake in the dead of night, because I don't know. I was walking, and I had a phone call with Clay, and we were talking about the 7 dwarves, and I was laughing about Weepy and Wheezy. And after I hung up, I turn around, and still a ways off, but pretty close, is someone dressed up as Happy, one of the 7 dwarves, and he just starts booking it toward me. And in my dream, I knew that there was a serial killer based on the 7 dwarfs, where he would dress up as a dwarf. And it kind of like, I've never seen the movie 7, but I know what it's about. Essentially, it's like 7, where instead of like, I'm going to kill someone based off all the 7 deadly sins, like, I'm going to kill someone based off all the 7 dwarfs. And yeah, we just started throwing hands. And I remember waking up and going, that is the funniest fucking nightmare I have ever had in my life. What? And like, I can still remember it pretty well, which like doesn't always happen with a dream, but it's like, this is so batshit crazy. This is amazing. I think that was the night I watched Guardians 3, and then I remember I was going to my parents' house after the movies. I was going to go pick up a suitcase for the trip. And there was this car following behind me. And you're like, it's like 9:30. It's probably later than that. It's maybe like 9:45, 10 o'clock at night. So it's like pitch black. There's this car following really close behind me. I'm like, all right. I mean, that's not super abnormal, but it's a little weird. And then at one point, their lights went off. Not completely, but it was like, there's just like this orange glow and nothing else. Like I'm being followed by this demonic jack-o'-lantern. I'm like, that's fucking weird. I don't like this. And the lights came back on. I was like, okay, maybe it was just a weird mistake and they're not trying to intimidate me. And then I see them kind of start to swerve behind me. I'm like, okay, they're going to pass me. It's whatever the fuck. And then they swerved right back and I'm like, oh, this person's drunk. And then the lights went off completely. I was like, I'm fucking scared, man. Like, when I get to my parents' house, I'm not going to turn into the house. I'm going to keep driving because I don't want this person to now know where my family lives. But they ended up turning away, like, way before my parents' house. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm fine, but like, it scared the shit out of me. And the last thing to say is, when it comes to actual video games I'm playing and not just reading, I'm about 20 hours into Eternia. So I'm about 2/3-ish. I think I'm near the end of Disc 2, very close to the end of the game. Like, looking at walkthroughs, there's only, like, a small amount of things to do left. I'm definitely enjoying the game. I don't know if I quite love it. Definitely not as much as Symphonia, but I am liking it quite a bit. Now, Clay and I were playing through Tales of the Abyss together, and we just haven't in a few weeks. Essentially, it comes down to a combination of, because of our schedules, there's only a set amount of time we can do it. I really wanted to spend some of that time doing some of our tier list videos and reading Umineko. And after talking about it last night, he did officially say, he's like, I just don't want to play it anymore. I'm out. I don't like pretty much anything in this game. So what I am going to do is, when I finish Eternia, which still might be in another week or two, especially with, I'm going to take a few days out of state. Once I'm done with Eternia, I'm going to pick up Abyss, and then try to just play it to the end, which we're about a third of the way through, but after that, then it'll be Abyss, and I can talk about it more regularly in Car Talk videos, and then, of course, when I'm done with that, I'm going to make a video on it. I'll do the same with Eternia. So, that's it. That's all for this morning edition of Car Talk Thursday. I think at this point, it's close to 10:30, which means KFC is open, and I just want to go to KFC. I'm not working today, so, I'm going to go get fried chicken for breakfast. No one's going to stop me, and then I'll, watch Mission Impossible.